Hi ladies and gents, Pond here with another video for Rise of Empires, Ice and Fire. Thank you so much for all your previous likes, comments and subscriptions to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, why not click on that button and ring the bell so you can get notifications whenever I'm dropping videos on the channel, which is daily. And now on to the subject of this video, which is the SX1 heroes. I'm going to rank them. Now, you get SX1, there are 6 heroes in this group, and you'll get them in Season 5 of Reign of Chaos. The current situation from the last set of players that did Season 5 was that they had these SX1 heroes available at the start of the season, but then they also had SX2 recruitment in the middle of the season. So that is something for you to consider. When I go through these heroes in a minute, you're going to see that actually out of the 6, there's probably only really 2 that you'd want to get. And that's got to be a consideration for you in terms of how you spend your tickets, because the SX2 and SX3 heroes, out of those 8 heroes, you're probably going to you're definitely going to want 5 of them, and you might even consider a 6th or 7th pretty good addition to your account as well. So just bear that in mind when you're recruiting for SX1, how many tickets you might want to spend and which heroes you want to go for. So let's get started. First off, we have Cicero. Cicero is a footman hero. There's actually 3 footman heroes in the SX1 group, which is a little bit weird. I do have him in my main. I picked him up in recruitment, and then I got a first duplicate of him on Monday in my rewards. Cicero is basically a middle row hero. He doesn't have a lot of tankiness on his for him to be able to go on the front row. He doesn't give extra HP on his 6th skill. He doesn't give extra resistance. So he doesn't really have any elements that are going to make him a good front row hero. On his 2nd skill, it's a passive skill, so it activates after he does a basic attack. It's only 30%, and this is going to max out at not a lot of damage. Basically, 230% damage to 2 random enemy squads. I think it's more than that. I think it totals up at more than that eventually. But and the additional damage as well. You're looking at 20% additional damage. That is quite nice. But 30% is a really low chance for an SX hero. It's not going to activate that often. Footman heroes are probably just going to have that one basic attack, because there's not many footman heroes that would... Well, I don't think there's any footman heroes that would give extra basic attacks, like a Rosen would, for instance, for cavalry. And his 5th skill is a 60% chance to have 2 random enemy squads enter the armor break status, lowering defense for 2 turns. Now this maxes at 200%, minus 200% defense. I presume that is resistance. Again, that is actually a considerable amount, but it is a combat skill, this skill, and bearing in mind footmen are often going to be up against cavalry. A lot of cavalry heroes have CC in SX, like Army Breaker, even like S3s like Rosen and Roku can silence. You're going to come up against heroes like Avalanche that will suppress. So Rosen suppresses as well, sorry. So there's lots of heroes that are going to actually potentially stop that skill from activating. And this 8th skill, again, it's a combat skill. So you have the same problem, and it's going to have up to 50% chance when maxed to give the front row 100% chance of evasion on the next 3 damage taken. So he doesn't do a lot, Cicero, and his main problem is that he is competing against Bleeding Steed, who has an awesome healing skill for the 8th skill, and he does confusion, and he does extra damage, more extra damage from his 2nd skill. And Cicero just can't compete. You won't find Cicero on any of the top combinations for footmen on the most recent couple of combination sheets. As soon as you get to SX4, you're going to pick up Skander, who's another footman hero who has an unbelievably good healing skill and does more. And then you've got SX5 Liberator, who's a front row hero, but you could use in middle row. So there are at least 3 heroes that are going to go ahead of Cicero in the queue in terms of that middle row slot. So he's just not a priority. On to the next hero, which is Elk. Now, Elk is a ranged archer's hero. He's one of the 2 archer's heroes of the SX1 group. Again, Elk's main problem is that he is not going to do enough damage for a ranged hero compared to Jade Eagle, who does huge amounts of damage. And also, you've got to consider that at SX3, you will want to definitely get Spectral Reaper. Spectral Reaper is one of the best killer heroes in the game. You just have to focus on getting Spectral Reaker. Elk is at best a third choice, and how many people are going to run with 3 Archers Legions? Not many. So again, he's really not a priority, and the reason, like, he does have some prep skills, so he's less susceptible to being countered or silenced, but first 3 turns, the front row Archer squad has 70% chance to enter counter-attacker state, which deals 250% return damage to the source when basic attacked. This is quite a nice skill in terms of that it's probably going to activate 2 times per turn, but it's only for the first 3 turns. So you're looking at probably 500% damage, and it's not him doing the damage, it's the front row, obviously. The 5th skill is a combat skill, so again, it's acceptable. I really don't like this skill because it is A, a combat skill, B, it requires 1 turn of prep, and C, it's only got a 35% chance. There's a really high probability that this skill is going to get stopped by another hero silencing or suppressing it. And when it does get off, it's going to do 366% damage to 3 random enemy squads, so it's 918% damage. It will lower might, resistance, tactical might, and tactical resistance by 38%. Now, reducing might and resistance by 38% is hardly anything. Like the top players who have Dragon Master gear and all their red combat specialization maxed are looking at 700% might right now. So that is around 5% reduction. It's not going to do much. Reducing the tactical might and tactical resistance, that is a good buff. That is quite a considerable amount. But like I say, it's unlikely to happen. He does just do a bit of extra damage, might and resistance on his 6th skill. He does extra might on his 7th skill, which you'd expect for a back row hero. And then his 8th skill isn't direct damage either. Its first 3 turns, 2 random friendly squads have a 70% chance to be sober, immune to silence, disarm, suppress, confuse, and 55% increased might. Again, like we just discussed, a 55% increase in might is not actually a big deal, really. And the chance of basically this activating 2 out of the 3 turns to put, 2 squads into clarity, well, when you compare that to someone like Avalanche, who constantly has clarity, how good is these skills? They're not adding a lot to your Legion. He's not worth keeping. On to the next hero, Dragon's Avatar. So again, this is the 3rd hero that I really just do not rate out of the SX heroes. And yes, I do have all 3 of them in my main. Dragon's Avatar, he's actually been, I would have rated him higher previously because of the ability of his 8th skill, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the devs have actually recently amended this skill. They realised that they'd made a mistake in the coding and how this skill worked, and you could exploit it to win a lot of poisoned tile battles when you were trying to force a poisoned tile. So now they've removed that ability. That really does decrease Dragon Avatar's use, and again, he is basically a front row hero. If we look at his 6th skill, he gives additional might, resistance, and damage, but his 7th skill is extra might. But when you look at his skills, he's not going to do any damage. Like this first skill is 50% increased damage for the squad. When the current troop is halved, gain 100% additional might and resistance. And then his 5th skill, after basic attack, 100% chance to deal 240% damage to an enemy squad within range. So that's basically an auto attack. Being a passive skill, that is okay. And then his 8th skill is a status skill. So he is good in terms of that he's got 2 status skills and a passive skill. That's why I would rate him a little bit higher than the other 2. It's going to be he is going to be quite consistent in these skills activating in a battle. And this last skill is 100% chance to perform 2 normal attacks when current troop power drops below 50%. So similar to that 2nd skill, he's kind of like a last chance saloon hero that when you're in trouble, he's going to then get the full benefits of his skills. But the flip side of that is that if you do have a high troop count, then like say if you've got him with Bleeding Steed or Skander in that Legion, then they're constantly going to be healing troops. He might not even drop below 50%. You're not going to benefit from him. That is something to consider. And when this hero squad is defeated or has broken morale, this hero will continue to fight for 1 more turn. So this is, again, you'll get basically, when it drops to 0, you'll see that he'll just continue on to the next turn. So you have 1 more chance for skills to activate. How often this is going to be critical in winning a battle, I don't think it is going to be that often. How much damage can you do with 1 extra go? And when attacking territories, if the Legion's loyalty is lower than the Rebel zeal, then the hero will be unable to continue fighting. This text is a new addition to this description, and unfortunately that means that the devs have changed it so you can't use Dragon's avatar for taking forced poison tiles. So that's a real decrease in his abilities. The next hero is Hunk. Hunk is the third footman hero. He does give extra HP and extra resistance, which is definitely what you want from a front row hero. His skills are quite unique. Like, first off, you've got this status skill. When the squad takes damage, there is chances to evade. That increases to 25%, with a 50% chance each turn to increase squad damage. 25% chance. That is the equal lowest in the game with Orochi's 5th skill. So you're looking at this, even though it's a status skill, so usually status skills, you would expect them that they are activating all the time, but with his, this is still chance based, only 25%, so it can't be, the possibility of it activating can't be stopped by suppression or silencing, but you're still only looking at 25%. Best case scenario, this is going to activate 2 or 3 times in a battle max to just evade, and evade isn't, the best type of tankiness, I say, because again, he's not doing any healing compared to, say, Steed or Scander, and then you get a bit of extra damage. But then his 5th skill is giving up to 30% chance to make 2 random enemy squads within range to enter confused and flammable status. Skill and basic attacks target random targets, take 50% additional burning damage lasting 2 turns. Now, this is interesting. The reason I've rated Hunk slightly higher is that though he won't appear in any footman combinations either, he does appear in a mixed combo, because from next season there will be a middle row archer's hero that actually boosts the percentages of the other 2 heroes' 5th skill. So there's in the first 5 turns, I think it is, this will actually be a 40% chance, and then there's a possibility for it to increase to 60% chance for turns 6, 7 and 8. Now, or maybe it's 5, 6 and 7 and 8, but it will be one of the 2. What that does is, obviously, confusion is a really good form of crowd control. It means that the enemy troops can attack each other. So having that high chance is good, plus the addition of the burning damage, 50% is a big amount. So that is nice. The problem with Hunk is this 8th skill, Slaughter. First 6 turns, all friendly squads have 30% increased combat speed. 50% of the damage taken will be tallied on turn 7. So what Hunk does is basically you need to win the battle by the 6th round with him, because by the 7th round, half of the damage that you've taken to that point gets added on turn 7. So you can imagine if he was actually with, say, Scander, who was healing loads of troops each turn so that he could take more damage, you could be in a situation where by turn 7, in the first 6 turns, he took so much damage that all of your troops get killed on turn 7 in one go. So this is why Hunk isn't a very good hero for just normal footmen. You would need to put him in this mixed combo with the SX1 Archer and Spectral Reaper, where basically the aim is that you're going to blitz the opponent in the first 6 rounds and win the battle. If you can't do this, then this eighth skill is actually a hindrance. It does do a little bit of damage, but only before the battle. So again, Hunk is all about winning the battle in the first 6 turns. It's not great generally. The 5th hero to look at is Windwalker. I do have Windwalker. I use him in one of my cavalry legions. Front row hero. He is very nice. He's got a really good healing skill for his 2nd skill, which is a status skill, so it's guaranteed healing, and it's going to give up to 20% recovery rate. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but actually this basically stacks over 2 turns, and it can stack up to 8 times. So you can get 160% recovery, which is the 2nd best in the game behind Scanders. And what will happen is then his other skills boost that recovery. So his 5th skill does a good amount of damage, 60% chance. That's a high chance skill to do 333% damage to 2 enemy squads within range. Plus, it says it deals damage to self squad, but when I've watched battle videos, I haven't actually seen evidence of this damage happening. So that actually just improves him. He just has extra resistance and a little bit of extra speed on his front, which isn't perfect for front row hero, and he does extra might. But really, Windwalker's about adding a bit of damage while also protecting himself with the healing. And this is what we see on his 8th skill. 50% chance, so good level of chance again, to taunt 2 random enemy squads within range. What that does is then those squads will basic attack him. That then increases the amount of healing on the 2nd skill. And it will also, he has on this a counter attack status, so when those squads do attack him, it's going to then return 150% damage, which is quite nice, and it increases 100% resistance. So that does give him a lot more of a tanky element for a front row hero. So Windwalker's really nice. You can use Windwalker in multiple combinations in front of Army Breaker and Avalanche, or you can change Avalanche for Immortal. You can use Windwalker with Rosen and Avalanche. You can use Windwalker with Immortal and then a back row of like Rosen, Ragnar, Avalanche or Immortal, Living Saint. So he works in lots of different combos for cavalry, and he's going to work quite nicely with the SX6 cavalry hero that we're getting next time as well. So the best hero for me in the SX1 group is Sakura Blossom. Unfortunately, she's the only one I don't have in my main account. Sakura, when I first looked at her skills, I was probably overly critical in my hero review of her. Actually, she is she has a very specific set of abilities that actually do a huge amount, and she's all around basically the first 3 turns of a battle. You're going to want her put her on the front row, despite her giving extra damage and having extra might, because the whole point of Sakura is that she's an offensive hero, and you can pair her with other heroes and basically blitz the opponent in the first 3 turns to give yourself such a big gap in the battle that you go on and win, even if she's not contributing that much anymore. So for her 2nd skill, first 2 turns, 2 random squads, friendly squads, will move first. So even though archers have a lower combat speed usually against cavalry, this is going to give you the first hit automatically. And on the 2nd turn, deal 687% damage to 2 random enemy squads. So that's quite a lot of damage, nearly 1400% damage in total. Her 5th skill, for the first 3 turns, 2 random enemy squads take 50% additional damage. That is a large amount of additional damage. And then her 8th skill, for the first 3 turns, 2 random friendly archers deal an additional 50% extra damage. So you're seeing a difference of 100% damage there from the opponent taking more and her boosting her own legions to deal more. When you pair her with, for instance, Spectral Reaper, who does a lot of damage from both basic attacks and his skill attacks, you can absolutely blitz the opponent. And we've seen combinations for those top players who have the Dragon Master gear. They've been using Sakura Blossom with Rosen Blade in the middle, because Rosen gives extra basic attacks on the first 3 turns, and then you have Spectral Reaper on the back row, who's basically doing nearly all of the killing and can be, and I did in the Mixed Legion video, I showed a battle video of that combination and the absolutely devastating effects they can have in those first 3 turns. Sakura as well is kind of future-proof, that she already does work with various combinations of archers. You put her on the front row, you can put Tara and like Witch Hunter or Jade Eagle behind her. You can, because Jade Eagle does pretty good damage, even though it's not ideal because his biggest skills require prep, so you won't get the best benefit out of pairing him with Sakura. But you can put Sakura on like a more defensive combination where you've got Ashen Verdict, the SX5 Archer Hero, and Defender in there. Again, because Defender's 8th skill gives extra basic attacks as well, so it's all about doing more damage in those first few turns. Ashen Verdict gives extra basic attacks as well. And then the top combination for next season is going to be either Sakura Blossom or Defender on your front archers row, with the SX6 tracker in the middle row, and then Reaper on the back row. And again, that is going to do basically the SX6 Archer Hero completely boosts Reaper, and it's all about just absolutely obliterating the opponents within those first 3 turns basically. So she can have a really big difference, and I would suggest that out of the SX1, her and Windwalker are 2 heroes you want to consider. But all the others, they're not going to really add anything to your account. So that's where you have to kind of consider whether you want to spend a lot of tickets on SX1 to try and get a Windwalker and a Sakura. you know, if you've already got the Beast Queen Rosen Immortal combination, would Windwalker make a massive difference? Not necessarily, because you can use Army Breaker or Lawman on your front row in future cavalry combinations. You're going to get like different cavalry heroes at SX4 and SX6 that are going to change the cavalry meta so that Windwalker isn't so key. But Windwalker does work quite well with that SX6 cavalry hero, the new cavalry hero we're getting as well. So Windwalker and Sakura, I think, are pretty much future-proofed. The Hunk working in that combination, like people might think, oh, can he work with Inquisitor and with Witch Hunter because he has that flammable status on his 5th skill as well? It is quite a good combination. Some people are getting good results with it, but those other mixed combinations that I've talked about, like Sakura, Rosen, Reaper, potentially other combinations with other footman hero, like with the Liberator SX5, like with Skander, with the new SX6 Archer hero and Reaper, are going to probably do better than any mixed combination that you have with Hunk. So that's why I've rated him lower. So there we go, guys. That is everything on the SX1 heroes. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Obviously, we do have a lot of combinations and things to think about, so that's why it's slightly longer than the previous ranking videos. If you have liked this video, then please do click on that like. And I'll be interested to hear your comments on SX1 heroes. How are you getting on with them? Is there anyone out there using these guys in mixed combos, for instance? Please do drop your comments down below. And if you haven't already, why not click on that subscribe and ring the bell so you can get those notifications of when I'm dropping videos on the channel. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.